This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we have a pretty big one. We're getting right to the heart of some of the largest projects in philosophical history, the systematic thinkers.
Right. We're talking about the big names, the Spinozas, the Kants, the Hegels.
Exactly. The ones who didn't just write a book on, say, ethics or logic. They tried to write the book on reality itself, putting everything from, I don't know, physics to the state, all under one single roof.
And we're going to start with a claim that, well, might be a little unsettling, especially if you've spent any time at all wrestling with these huge systems.
Okay.
The core idea, and this comes straight from those sources we looked at, is that systematic philosophy, these grand, all-encompassing systems, they're not fundamentally a body of knowledge. Hang on, wait a minute. You're saying a work like Hegel's Encyclopedia, which is just massive, you're saying that's not knowledge? I mean, it's got logic, physics, art, politics. That sounds like the definition of knowledge to me. It contains knowledge, yes, of course. But the system itself, the thing holding it all together, that's not the knowledge. A better way to think of it is as an empty vertical bookshelf.
An empty vertical bookshelf. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right.
Because when you say that, it sounds, really dismissive. Like you're saying these titans of thought were just building something hollow.
Not at all. It's not a criticism. It's more like an engineering assessment. The argument is that the power of these systems, the reason they're still around when their science is, frankly, obsolete, it lies in their form, the structure, the real innovation, the content. That's almost secondary.
So you're telling me and the listener that to really get these thinkers, we shouldn't be asking what truth did they find.
Yeah.
We should be asking what filing system did they invent?
That's precisely it. That's the mission for this deep dive. We have to look past the millions of words and see the architecture, the framework that made it all possible in the first place.
We're studying the blueprints, not the house. Okay, so when you look at these big systems, say Spinoza with his geometric proofs or Kant's critiques, the first thing that hits you is just the sheer scope of it all. They cover everything.
They do, absolutely. But if you just take a step back, the first thing you notice isn't the content, it's the structure.
Yeah.
They aren't just a big pile of facts. They're hierarchical, always top down.
Top down.
The point of the system isn't really to give you new facts from the ground up. It's to give you a structure, a vertical order that tells you where every fact you could ever find is supposed to go.
Okay, let's build this bookshelf metaphor then. Let's make it concrete.
Good idea. So the system always starts at the very top, the highest shelf. This is where you put the most abstract, absolute principles.
Pure reason or God or just being itself.
Exactly. The really big, airy stuff. And then as you move down the bookshelf, each shelf gets a little more concrete.
So below pure reason, maybe you get the laws of physics, and then below that you get biology, and then, I don't know, ethics and politics way down at the bottom. A descent from the abstract to the specific.
That's the movement. But here's the key, the part about it being empty.
Right. Why empty?
Because the structure itself doesn't generate the books. It only tells you the relationship between the shelves. It dictates that ethics has to sit below pure logic, or that politics is a more concrete subject than physics.
So the system provides the place for the knowledge.
Yes, the conceptual slot.
Yeah.
So you could take an old book on Newtonian mechanics and put it on the nature shelf.
Or you could swap it out for a modern quantum physics book. The shelf doesn't care.
It doesn't care at all. You can put authoritarian law or democratic law on the law shelf. The system, the structure, remains useful even when all the books are outdated. That's its power. It's not a discovery tool, it's an organizational one. It's a vertical filing system for reality.
That clicks. It's like the Dewey Decimal System for a library. The system doesn't write the books, so it just gives the librarian a bulletproof guide for where everything goes and how to find it.
And think how powerful that is. You can manage unbelievable complexity, millions of books, or all of reality, just by giving everything a number, a place. You don't have to read everything to know how to organize it.
To really nail this down, we have to look at Hegel. He's the master architect here. You pick up his encyclopedia, and the scope is just, it's dizzying. Logic, nature, spirit, law, art, religion.
Every shelf looks packed to the gills.
Right.
But if you strip away all the specific language, the details about, say, Prussian law or 19th century chemistry, what's left behind is a single, surprisingly simple engine.
The dialectic.
The famous dialectical movement.
That old thesis, antithesis, synthesis idea. I feel like that phrase has become such a cliche, it almost sounds too simple.
It can, but its structural function is what's brilliant. It's an engine designed to force movement upwards vertically.
Mm-hmm.
You start with one concept, the thesis, but it's incomplete. It's too abstract. So it generates its own opposite, the antithesis, to show its limitations. And the only way to solve that tension is to move to a higher, more comprehensive concept, the synthesis, that holds both of the lower ones in it.
Ah, so the synthesis has to be on a higher shelf because it contains the entire history of the conflict that happened below it.
Precisely. The logic itself builds the hierarchy. It forces the system to climb upwards from simple to complex. And this is why everything, mechanics, biology, history, it all gets poured into the exact same logical container. The development of a flower follows the same structural pattern as the development of a state.
You know, that explains something I've always felt reading Hegel. It's incredibly impressive, but it can also feel strangely sterile.
Yes.
One method can apply to everything, but then you realize the content, say the chemistry, it doesn't really look like chemistry anymore. It looks like it's been put through a philosophical sorting machine.
You were watching the machine work, not the actual stuff it was sorting. The beauty is in the organization itself.
Okay, and this also solves another mystery for me. When these systems get to the very end, what Hegel calls absolute knowledge, or Kant calls pure reason, the language just gets, well, it gets really blurry and weird. Why is that?
It's blurry because at that point, philosophy has run out of content to organize. It's already placed physics and ethics and art on their proper shelves. In these systems, philosophy is the structure. It is the ordering principle.
So physics is the books on the nature shelf, law is the books on the politics shelf, but philosophy is the bookshelf itself, the whole thing.
Yes, the whole thing. When the system is done, all it can do is reflect on its own perfect completed design. Its job was to organize, not to discover. And now that everything's in its place, it can just admire its own handiwork.
That's a really powerful way to reframe it. It shifts the whole conversation from, is Hegel right, to how efficient is Hegel's architecture?
And that efficiency is the key to what comes next.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me. If we accept this whole structural argument, then we have to ask the big historical question. Why do these grand systems pop up where and when they do? In Germany, in ancient China, it's not just random genius.
Not at all. The answer is actually pretty simple and, well, it's organizational. These systems emerge where complex, vertical, bureaucratic states exist or are being built.
Bureaucracy and philosophy. I mean, we usually think of them as total opposites. One is abstract thought, the other is, paperwork.
But they share the same mind. They have the same mental architecture. Think about what a big bureaucracy needs.
Okay.
It needs a hierarchy. It needs abstract principles at the very top, a constitution, a legal code. And then below that, you have specialized departments. Finance, defense, justice.
You have to classify things before you can deal with them. The administrator has to know which file cabinet to open before they even look at the details.
Exactly. A bureaucracy is a machine for managing chaos and complexity without needing to know every single detail about what it's managing. It relies on abstract organization.
And systematic philosophy does the exact same thing for the world of ideas. It manages the chaos of all of human knowledge with one single, consistent organizational chart. It doesn't need to be an expert in biology.
Right.
It just needs to know where biology belongs in the grand scheme of things.
And look where these systems thrive. Kant and Hegel. They're writing right as the modern Prussian administrative state is being born, codifying laws, centralizing everything. Ancient Chinese philosophy develops alongside these incredibly sophisticated imperial bureaucracies.
So the mental muscles you need to build a top-down system for the state are the same ones you use to build a top-down system for reality.
Perfect parallel. Philosophy, in these cases, almost becomes, well, the sources call it the metaphysics of administration.
Wow, it gives the state's filing system a kind of cosmic seal of approval.
It says the reason your government is a hierarchy is because reality itself is a hierarchy. It elevates paperwork to a philosophical necessity.
That provides so much context, and it makes the old criticisms feel a bit misplaced.
They really do. Which brings us to the last piece of the puzzle, their longevity. Why do these systems stick around for centuries, even when their science is just completely wrong?
Yeah, if the content was the point, Hegel's chemistry or Plato's physics should have been a death sentence for their systems the moment modern science showed up.
They should be museum pieces, but they're not. And the reason is that the shelf remains useful even when you replace all the books.
Ah,
The system is adaptable. You can throw out the old physics books and put in new ones. You can update the politics shelf from monarchy to democracy. As long as that vertical structure stays intact, the system feels alive. It keeps getting renovated.
it's an architecture that's just begging to be refurbished, and we keep doing it because the structure itself promises something so powerful that all this complexity can be tamed.
That it can all be classified and put in its proper place.
So what about the classic criticism? You know, the thinkers who come along later and say the emperor has no clothes, that the system is just an empty, beautiful structure.
Well, they're not wrong, but they're kind of missing the point.
How so?
The system was never meant to wear clothes. It was designed to be a universal hanker rack for organizing everyone else's wardrobes. Its purpose was logistical, not empirical.
That's the perfect summary of the thesis right there. Systematic philosophy isn't about what you know, it's about how you organize what you know. It's intellectual furniture.
A vertical hierarchy that gives you structure, but not content. And its biggest weakness, confusing that structure for truth, is also, strangely, the source of its greatest power.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If we start seeing the history of philosophy this way, as a history of organization, the whole story changes.
It stops being a story about great geniuses discovering eternal truths, and it becomes a history of how we learn to manage information vertically, a history of competing blueprints for reality.
Which makes this feel incredibly relevant right now. If 19th century systematic philosophy was the perfect tool for the bureaucratic state, what's the equivalent today, when complexity isn't managed in file cabinets but by algorithms?
That is the question, isn't it? If the old system was the empty shelf, then I think you have to look at big data systems, at AI, as the new kind of shelf.
A new kind of shelf. Except this one doesn't just sit there.
Exactly. It's a dynamic shelf. AI is at its core a system for classifying and prioritizing its structure. But it can also generate new content and rearrange its own hierarchy in real time based on the data it's fed.
We've gone from a fixed stone library built by one person to a self-rearranging, constantly learning data center. So the question we'll leave you with is this. What happens when the empty structure, the system built for pure optimization, starts optimizing itself without us?
A self-arranging vertical hierarchy. It feels like the history of systematic thought is not even close to being over. It's just getting a whole lot faster.
From Hegel's logic to tomorrow's algorithms, all by looking at an empty bookshelf. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.